Hello Gobos, welcome back. Today we're gonna watch together Should You Be Assessed for ADHD with Dr. Stephen, I don't know, Humphries from Harley Therapy. Almost 700,000 views. Harley Therapy, Psychotherapy and Counseling channel. I haven't looked at the background. I haven't done any back check about this, but this is something I wanted to watch for myself, and I thought it would be interesting to watch it for with you guys, because I think it's important to know yourself. And I meet a lot of people who don't know who they really are in my daily life. All this just to say that we'll see if together if we have ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. This is just a YouTube video, so you should get assessed, but the title is Should You Be Assessed for ADHD? I think if you watch my videos or know me personally, you might think or know that I have ADHD. I've never been assessed, but I've done enough reading and been told enough times, and I know what happened in high school,
no good,
and college and university, that I have a pretty strong belief that I have ADHD, that with all the tests I did online. And I wanted to take this video, watch this video. I chose this video, because of this comment. Didn't expect this guy to summarize my entire life in 13 minutes. So we're gonna take a look together, see what happens. We're gonna go to full screen. I'm not good with the audio balancing, so we'll see how it goes. My apologies if it's not okay, if it's not balanced. It's watching the audio on my side.
My name is Dr. Stephen Humphries. I'm a consultant psychiatrist and I specialise in adult ADHD. What I thought I'd do today is a short video on how you might decide that you want assessment.
It's the first time I see a mustache groomed like that. Okay.
For ADHD in adulthood. It's quite a big decision. It's not always cheap to get an assessment privately. And I've assessed many people over many years, and they quite often would like to know beforehand whether or not they're barking up the wrong tree. So in order to help you decide, I thought I'd run through some of the typical features that present in adulthood as opposed to childhood, and it is rather different. What I won't be doing is I won't be going into what doctors call etiology or pathology. In other words, we won't be dealing with the causes of ADHD or the structural brain changes or biochemical changes that occur, because that's for another video perhaps. Okay. The first thing to say very clearly, this is a common condition. There's very, very robust research which suggests that about 4% of the population have ADHD in adulthood. And
4%? That's very common?
That are less than 1% diagnosed. So it is massively underdiagnosed.
Okay. 4% diagnosed and only less than 1%. Okay.
Part of the reason for that is historical. If you go to parts of America, maybe 6 to 12% of people are diagnosed with the condition, and that's probably too many. In this country, it's less than 1%. British psychiatry in adulthood always looked at ADHD as part of a hyperkinetic disorder. This is not the same condition. This is a very severe condition associated usually with brain damage. Spotting someone with hyperkinesis is relatively straightforward. ADHD is a much milder, more subtle condition and much more common. It also wasn't helped by some very influential research which was carried out in the 1990s, which appeared to show that children at the age of 18 magically stopped getting ADHD. This was very convenient in some ways. And there's still
wait, sorry, I wasn't listening.
Around show that children at the age of 18 magically stopped getting ADHD.
Okay.
This was very convenient in some ways. And there's still some of that around, that adults cannot have ADHD. The truth of the matter is that that research was debunked. The reason being that they used the wrong scales. They used childhood scales for adults. And if you use adult scales for adults, we find that 60 to 70% of people retain symptoms.
Okay.
But the profile of symptoms differs in adults. There's much less hyperactivity. There's much less impulsivity, although that still does exist.
For me as a kid, I was a very quiet kid, I think, if I remember correctly. I enjoyed reading. I would get lost in the books. I enjoyed video games. I think that video games led me to read less and less, and now I have trouble reading about 15 minutes at a time, as it's a really, really, really good book.
And the inattentiveness, which is the third of the features, remains. So an adult is far more likely to present with inattentive features than gross hyperactivity. That's relatively uncommon in adults.
If you look at my notebooks from primary school, they're just covered with dinosaurs and alien drawings. And when I tried to go back to uni in my early 20s, I found my book like a couple of years later. First lesson, tons of notes, very clean. Second lesson, less notes, not so clean. Third lesson, the dinosaurs are back, the aliens are back, less and less notes. The fifth or sixth lesson was just me counting the tick that the teacher had. He would say like or something like that, or we at every end of sentence, and I started counting that instead of listening to the lesson, and then I stopped going to class. So I guess that's inattentiveness, but I was attentive to something, but maybe not the right thing. I don't know.
The other question that is sometimes raised when we talk about adults with ADHD is, surely everybody would respond to treatment with...
This guy is so chill. It's putting me to sleep. Granted, I got about 4 hours last night. All right. Sorry, let's go back.
Adults with ADHD is... surely everybody would respond to treatment with stimulants, which are the mainstay of treatments in ADHD. You know, give people amphetamines or Ritalin, they're going to feel more animated, better focused. This isn't actually true. There's been some significant research done recently which shows that people without ADHD who take stimulants to enhance their cognitive performance actually decline in their performance.
Okay.
It's only people with ADHD that respond properly to treatment.
My mom told me that school wanted to put me and my brother on Ritalin when we were in primary school. My brother was more physically active, but he had really good grades. So I don't know why they wanted to put him on Ritalin, or if it was just me. But my mom was like, "No, we're not putting these kids on Ritalin. They don't need medication. It's just how they are." And I'm really grateful for that. I've avoided that whole thing, because apparently I don't know. I don't know which of my friends were on Ritalin. Maybe it can help, but from the other videos and documentaries that I've seen, it was prescribed to readily, maybe to get the classroom under control. Let's pump the kids full of chemicals. There's that great 10-foot pole song about that. I'll put it in the description below about Ritalin.
What might you notice if you have ADHD and it hasn't been diagnosed and you're an adult? You might be feeling that you were always somewhat different, perhaps from your siblings. Maybe you, in your family, you stood out as rather different in approach to things. Children with ADHD often find it very difficult to sleep. They can't settle. They have problems with school. Parents are always being dragged in to complain about naughty children. They're chatterboxers. They're always in detention. They're often very active and into sports. But in a way, I
wasn't into sports because I was bad at it. And I fucking hate competition because people turn into fucking dicks when there is something to win. For sports or board games or anything. Play board game with friends, super fun. Play Magic with friends, super fun. Play Magic at your local store, It's fun. Local store puts 1 booster pack on prize. All bets are off.
The easy way that's the easy form. A lot of people don't present like that, particularly if there is not as much hyperactivity. Children and adults often present with inattentiveness. They're described as a daydreamer. And if you're lucky enough to be intelligent, and this is not the same as concentration.
Being inattentive. I remember I would go for pints with one of my friends, and that fucker would go, ooh, ooh, because I was watching like the ladies walk by as I was listening to him, but he thought I would stop listening to him if I wasn't maintaining eye contact. Have you ever, like, this is so fucking rude. And I think the second time he did that, I just fucking stared in his eyes because he wanted my fucking eye contact, and you felt instantly uncomfortable. Like, what do you want? And then he stopped doing that. But that's concentration and intelligence is not the same. Let's see what he has to say.
You're lucky enough to be intelligent, and this is not the same as concentration. Concentration is a part of performance related to intelligence. But if you're an intelligent child, you can coast. You can coast through primary school easily. You don't need to do anything, just it's natural. Often children in primary school and the early stages of secondary school with ADHD don't do any preparation. They don't study. They don't do any homework. They don't.
No, that wasn't me. Because I wasn't listening in school, so I had to do some homework to catch up. But my first 3 grades were really easy. And then, I don't know what happened. I think we moved in 4th grade, and there were some bullies. And I didn't want to be bullied, so I started having bad grades. Because the teacher would make it really clear when you were being a bum in class. And that's how I made friends with the bullies, so that I wouldn't be bullied. That's something interesting with the bullying, the smart kids in class part, because I live in Southeast Asia, and the people tell me when you're a kid, you want to be friends with the nerds and the really good people in class. That's what they've told me, my adult students, because you think it's gonna rub off on you, and your parents are gonna be happy if you hang out with them, and you're gonna be in good graces with the teacher. Whereas in Quebec, we have a lot of slang and rude words for people who are really good at school. And I don't know how it is now, but remember, I grew up in the 90s. I was in grade school and high school in the 90s. So, yeah, they were not having a good time, the people who had good grades.
Do any coursework. They turn up for exams and they're bright and they do well. It tends to start to bite, however, at secondary school. I see so many people who got through primary school okay, went to secondary school, and they needed to hand in coursework, they needed to do homework, they just didn't do it. What they often rely upon is the effect of stress with an impending deadline.
Yes.
To generate focus. What happens is that your adrenal glands respond to the fear of an impending exam. They start to produce cortisol and adrenaline, which drives you into an all-night state of hyperfocus. So many people I see day to day got through exams on basically an all-nighter. They were
yeah. I get what the guy in the comment or the girl was saying. I remember first year of CJEP college, public community college, I guess. I don't know what's the equivalent. We had like 1 month in my humanities class to do something like 5,000 word essay, maybe 3,000, let's say, word essay about how to fix the problems of the world. And we could be from up to 5 or 6 group members. That part is hazy. We had a month to prepare, tons of writing to do. My English was really bad and I was really shy at that point, so I didn't pair up with anyone. No one asked me to pair up with them, and I completely forgot about the assignment until the teacher reminded us like 2 days before. And so, yeah, I did the whole assignment one night and one day. I wasted a lot of space by copy pasting all the countries that were part of the UN to fill up some to get up that word count. But yeah, I remember what he says, all-nighter. Damn, many of those.
Got through exams on basically an all-nighter. They were unable to work consistently towards a goal. And this is okay at a certain level, but it starts to get more and more difficult as you get older. Because basically what is happening is you're driving yourself into a stressed state to provoke focus. And you can't do A-levels very easily on that sort of stress. You certainly can't do exams or dissertations at university on a night's study.
I did.
And what often happens is that people peak at GCSEs, which to an intelligent person are relatively easy to accomplish without much study, and they start to flounder at A-levels, and then they fall apart at university. Another issue with universities is, of course, it's a much less structured environment. You are told what to do much less and monitored much less. And it's quite common for people with ADHD to get through A-levels and then to pancake at university level. Or if they get a bit further and they end up with doing a master's, the dissertation has 7 or 8 deferrals and it takes years to complete something which should take 1 year. One other misunderstanding about ADHD.
I like that edit. Take 1 year.
Takes years to complete something which should take 1 year. One other misunderstanding about ADHD is that concentration is constant, and it isn't. People's concentration varies, and parents and teachers sometimes say to me, or work colleagues, well, if he likes something or she likes something, they can concentrate on it. Well, that's not surprising.
Yeah.
That just happens.
Again, back at college, CJEP, all my basic classes, like just 65% just so I would pass. All my classes that I enjoyed, I did creative arts, languages, and literature. So video editing, photography, 3D animation, classic animation, 90%, 95%, 100%.
They can concentrate on it. Well, that's not surprising. That just happens. Often people with ADHD have islands of what's called hyperfocus. They can concentrate on computer games for days on end, but they can't do 10 minutes homework.
I can't focus on computer games for hours on end anymore. I feel like I'm wasting my time. I just get bored. Even if it's a really good game. I can watch tons of fucking videos. I guess that's my island right now. YouTube videos.
So it isn't just about concentrating, it's about the nature of the task. Things like computer games, certain pastimes evoke a lot of dopamine release, which provokes hyperfocus. Let's be clear, the hyperactivity in adulthood is often not present, or it remains as a bit of fidgeting or restless legs. Impulsivity is often less in adulthood than in children. We learn social adaptation, social restraints. We learn that if we keep on butting into conversations, we don't have any friends. So we stop doing it. We override some of those features. It's the inattentiveness.
That has come back to me in recent years, and I had to meet a patient listener to realize that I had been fucking rude for the last 2 years.
Which often persists into adulthood. And I next want to turn to how does that present itself.
Maybe you're thinking that I keep butting in for him, but no, it's because I'm trying to do transformative content, they call it, reaction videos, where you have to bring something, enough of something, to the original material to transform it, and then it becomes your own, and then you don't get fucking flagged for copyright or whatnot. And I quite like those. I watch a lot of Josh Streicher's and Asmongold videos and others. I like to watch them watch videos now more than I like watching the original video, because I like their take on it and because it feels like I'm hanging out with someone.
The sort of people that I see in adulthood with ADHD, their life is usually a bit of a mess. Everything's incomplete, whether that be the washing, the ironing, the dishes, study, work, meals. Things get started, people get distracted partway through and leave them unfinished. The same applies often to careers. People with ADHD often have had multiple jobs. They enter a job or a qualification with enthusiasm, and then they run out of steam.
Yep. Basically, every 6 months I've had a job until when I arrived in Southeast Asia, because there was enough going on around me to get me that new discovering thing, dopamine, to keep me going. And now it's been 8 years at the same job, and now I don't want to do that job anymore. Even if I'm good at it and comfortable with it, I can find work in my field that I've been doing for 8 years, but I don't want to do that.
They enter a job or a qualification with enthusiasm, and then they run out of steam.
Yep.
And so they've often had several attempts at university, move job every few months or every year or so, as they lose interest and they lose the dopamine drive. Procrastination is a mainstay of ADHD. I've never seen anybody with ADHD who didn't procrastinate. They put things off till the very last moment, particularly things which they don't want to do, but also anything that is fairly routine. So tax returns don't get sent in. Bills don't get paid. Court summonses come for unpaid traffic fines, things like that.
Yep.
Most people with ADHD in adulthood are intensely distractible, both to external stimuli, but often also to internal thought. They cannot stick with a train of thought without becoming diverted to something else, which leads to what's called difficulties with sequential processing.
Difficulties with sequential processing. That's interesting. I've never heard about that. Let's go back, because I want to hear the term that he said. I want to hear it again.
Which leads to what's called difficulties with sequential processing.
Sequential processing. I'm going to write that down.
So they do not do A, B, C, D. They do A, D, F, N, Z, B. They go back again and leave everything incomplete in the meantime. Another common feature of ADHD in adulthood is zoning out, as it's called. You're talking to a person and you can tell they're not really listening. They're thinking about something else. And often they can come back into focus, but there's a drift and the eyes disappear as they start to think about what they're going to do later on that day.
No, I don't do that.
Something totally inconsequential. People with ADHD in adulthood often, but not always, have difficulties with sustaining relationships, difficulties with maintaining consistency in relationships.
That's actually one of the reasons why I married my wife, because I thought she was so fucking amazing that I basically wanted to make it harder for me to break up with her if I ever wanted to. That thought has not occurred to me in the years that we've been together. I never thought I'd get married. I love being married. It's just like, all right, we got this. We're doing this. We're together in this, and we both think that we chose the right partner. I forgot my train of thought. I'm just thinking about my wife. Nice.
And so they often move from one relationship to another. At the early stages, when there's a lot of excitement and drive, it engages them, and then they move on. Adults with ADHD very, very commonly have associated what's called comorbid mood disorder. Very, very commonly have associated what's called comorbid mood disorder, or emotional dysregulation.
Emotional dysregulation. Is that a nice way to say mood swings? Morbid. Let's see what he has. I want to guess what he's got to say, but we're just listening to the doctor.
Which is usually a sense of anxiety, frustration, and low-grade depression, often misdiagnosed as depression. But it's a consequence of the chronic disorganization. People may self-medicate. They may go into phases of substance misuse.
That's interesting, because when shit in our house gets too fucking disorderly, I get depressed. And substance abuse, yep, we can talk about that another time. I've been right now I've been about 20 days sober, and I'm trying to never have a drink of alcohol again, but we'll see.
Particularly stimulant drugs, which of course produce an improvement in focus and concentration, and often not the euphoria that somebody without ADHD experiences. And the other thing to say is that a common treatment for mood disorders are SSRI antidepressants. SSRI antidepressants tend to make ADHD slightly worse. As serotonin, which is the chemical increased by those antidepressants, has an antagonistic effect towards dopamine. There are antidepressant treatments which work much better in people with ADHD, but the standard sertraline, Prozac, citalopram often reduce anxiety, but they often do not improve the concentration. So that's probably as much as I want to say for today in the setting of a short video, which is aimed at people with ADHD who don't sustain their concentration much longer than 10 minutes. So I'm not going to go on for hours.
I feel like you didn't answer, should we be assessed though? But anyways.
Is a common condition, just to recap, a common condition, often misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed, eminently treatable. The modern treatments are much better. There are treatments which last all day, which are non-addictive, do not induce tolerance, and which do not have serious side effects. Those treatments do not need to be taken every day. And this is an eye-opening moment for a lot of patients. They realise that they're not beholden. They don't have to take this treatment every day. They may have days off. They may have weeks off. There's some very good long-term research recently which shows that nearly everybody on treatment for ADHD has breaks, whether it be long or short. It's
because they can't sustain.
It's a bit like these. A pair of glasses you wear in order to focus. When I go swimming, I don't wear my glasses. I don't need them. So it's the same with ADHD treatments. People may use them at times of study. Some may use them all the time. But often you can have breaks, and there is no need for continued treatment, and they work straight away once the appropriate dose is achieved. So there's a lot that can be done out there, and hopefully this video will give you some idea of the sort of things to look for if you're considering that maybe you have a problem and it needs assessment. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we considering that we have a problem and that we need assessment? Yes, because my moods and my depressive episodes have been impacting my relationship, and my wife is very patient and very nice and loving and all that, and that's another reason why I married her. But I feel like she doesn't deserve to have me mopping around and being salty and being sensitive and being in a bad mood. She deserves better, and I want to be better for her. Another thing is just being organized. I wish I was better organized in my life and at work, and for doing these videos. You can see that I don't do any editing at the moment because it's very time consuming. 1, 2, I'm not good at it, and I'm not good at it because I can't sustain enough energy to do it properly. But besides that, it hasn't been so much of a problem. But if I went back to school, I would have, and I might have to do that soon. Maybe being diagnosed and having the right support could help me tons. Well, that's it for today, guys. I guess he answered the question in the end. I say guys, but this is it's a pronoun that I value as genderless. So sorry. Goblins. I'll call you guys goblins. And yeah, if you enjoy watching this with me, we'll do another one. Don't forget that if you enjoyed this video in particular, you can go to Harley Therapy I'll put the link in the description. You can sub, you can like. I'm on incognito because I don't want you guys to know what filthy shit I'm watching. And that's it. Thank you guys for sitting through this with me. 36 minutes. We added 20 minutes to the original time. So that's ADHD for you, maybe. We should do a test next time to see if we have it. But thank you guys for watching, and have a tremendous fucking year. Bye.